races told us that God had a color. And the Nation of Islam believed the same thing. The Nation of Islam believed that God was material. The Nation of Islam believed that God had a sex. The Nation of Islam believed that God had a color. They just differed as to what color God was. So they said, yeah, God is a man, but God is a black man. And the racists would say, no, God is a white man. But the nation, in trying to wake us up, was actually imitating what they thought they were fighting against. Just because the white racists did it, that don't mean that we should do it by painting it black. That's a problem. You can't imitate what you think you are fighting against. And by the grace of Allah, after 12 years in the nation, Malcolm was kicked out of the Nation of Islam, engineered by the FBI. This is all documented. Engineered by the FBI to get him kicked out of the Nation of Islam, but it is Allah who is the best of planners. And when Malcolm was kicked out of the Nation of Islam, what's the first thing that he did? He went to Mecca. He said, I have to go to Mecca. I have to learn about the true Islam. And when Malcolm went to Mecca, two revolutionary things happened to Malcolm. Two major things happened to Malcolm when he went to Mecca. Let no one tell you any different. Number one, when Malcolm went to Mecca, he realized how dangerous it is to worship another human being. See, the human being is not meant to be worshipped. Any human being who's worshipped is going to make them go crazy. And when you worship another human being, something's going to be wrong with your mind too. We're not meant to worship a human being, and a human being is not meant to be worshipped. We are not wired that way. And in the black community, sometimes when we had leaders, they would kind of be like divine leaders. One of our leaders used to say that he just was born as a result of spontaneous combustion on a corner of 125th Street in Lenox. That's in Harlem. He just poof, and he was there. We had a tendency to go for leaders who would claim that they were divine. We got to stop doing that. Malcolm, when he was in Mecca, realized how dangerous that was. That you cannot follow a human being as being divine. And he said, I followed Elijah Muhammad. I worshiped him. I looked at him like he was divine. He said, I saw him as having the power of the sun. Malcolm said, I will never worship another human being again. So he went from the worship of a human being to the worship of the one God. That is revolution. Second major change. Malcolm said, I had to change the way that I saw white people. When Malcolm was in the Nation of Islam, after he went to Harvard and gave a talk, about a week later, a white woman flew down to New York, found him at the Nation of Islam restaurant, and she said to him, I saw you speak at Harvard, and I want to know, what can I do? And Malcolm looked at her right in the eyes and he said, nothing. And she ran out of that restaurant in tears. After Malcolm went to Mecca, Malcolm went through a revolution, a change in his mind, he said, of how I see white people. He said, if I condemn white people for being white, he said, there's no way they can change that. They can't change that. He said, when you condemn someone for their color, you're condemning them before they're even born. He said, so if I say that all white people are inherently evil, he said, that's like white racists saying that all black people are inherently evil. He said, I have to judge the white man by another yardstick, not by his color. I have to judge the white man by his deeds, by his behavior. Because you can change your deeds. You can change your intentions. You can change your behaviors. He said, I have to give him an out. That was a radical change in terms of how Malcolm saw white folks. And he realized that would have to change as he went through this next level of his leadership capabilities. That comes from the Quran. You know, Allah says in the Quran, O you who believe, I made you into different tribes and nations so that you may get to know each other, not so that you may despise each other. The best of you, the most superior of you in the sight of Allah, in the sight of the one God, is the one who is the most righteous of you. Why did Allah have to tell us that? Because Allah knew as human beings, we're going to play the superiority-inferiority game. I'm superior to you because I'm black and you're not. I'm superior to you because I'm white and you're not. I'm superior to you because I'm rich and you're not. I'm superior to you because I go to a UC and you go to a state university. I'm superior to you because I'm a senior and you're a freshman. I'm superior to you. The one who created us knew that one of the things that we would do as human beings is come up with false definitions of superiority and inferiority. So if I were to say, I'm superior to you because I'm black, I didn't work for that. That wasn't my call. That wasn't my decision. But when Allah says superiority is based on righteousness, they asked the Prophet, what is righteousness? He said, good behavior. Look how fair that is. Anyone can engage in good behavior. Someone with education or without education can engage in good behavior. Someone who's poor or rich can engage in good behavior. No matter what color you are, you can engage in good behavior. So therefore, superiority is based on something that we work for. Superiority is based on something that we decide consciously that we're going to do. And we should all decide consciously to be righteous people. We should all decide consciously to engage in good behavior. So Malcolm was understanding the lessons of the Quran, the lessons of the true Islam. So when he dealt with white folks, he said, nah, their behavior, their conscious behavior, their intentions. And then he said, I realized on my pilgrimage to Mecca that there are white people who really want to help the black man in his struggle, who are sincere about helping the black man in his struggle. That made Malcolm more dangerous to the power structure. Feel me? So now Malcolm is going through this revolution, and this is critical. Malcolm said he thought about that white girl who came to him when he was in the nation, and he said, if I had her phone number, if I had her address, I would call her, I would write her, and I would say to her, this is what you can do. One of the beauties of Malcolm, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, is that Malcolm was willing to change. How many of us are willing to change? How many of us are willing to really sit down and admit that we too have been corrupted by this system as well? How many of us are willing to change? If you look at Malcolm's life, Malcolm Little, Detroit Red, Satan, they called him Satan in prison, Malcolm X, Al-Hajj Malik-ALi, he went through changes. He was willing to change. Malcolm was willing to say, I was wrong. I was wrong. What I taught in the Nation of Islam, the black man's God, the white man's the devil, that was wrong. I was wrong for doing that. A lot of people can't do that. Malcolm became famous in the Nation of Islam. His ego could have gotten away. His ego could have gotten away. He could have made a justification for it. He said, I was wrong. I have to change. He said, I'm for the truth no matter who speaks it. I don't care what color they are. If they speaking the truth, I'm with that. I'm for justice no matter who stands for justice. I don't care what color they are. Malcolm becomes more dangerous to the power structure. Malcolm, and I've said this before, one of the gifts that black people have been given is that other people try to imitate us. They'll imitate how we talk. They'll imitate how we dress. They'll listen to our music. We have this thing where we attract other people. When Malcolm was in the Nation of Islam, he couldn't play that role. When Malcolm came to the true Islam, it enabled him to play that particular role, because Malcolm wasn't just dealing with black folks after that. Malcolm was dealing with black folks, he was dealing with white folks, he was dealing with Latinos, he was dealing with all other people who were struggling, because he had gotten to that point of thinking more international. Brothers and sisters, Malcolm always talked about thinking international. Don't think national. Don't think just within the confines of a country. Think international. He says, once you think international, you'll be better able to understand what's happening in this country. Let me give you an example of how this applies today, because we have to use his analysis of how it applies today. Once you think international, one of the things that you will find out, one of the things that you will see when you look at things international, is that America is an empire. America is an empire. And Malcolm saw that. Once you see that America is an empire, now look at the Democrats and the Republicans. You will see that the Democrats and the Republicans both believe that America should be an empire. The Republicans believe that America should be an empire, and they will blow you up drop bombs on you. The Democrats believe that America shall be an empire, but they'll just smile at you, give you loans that you can't pay back, you know, hit